Wait,
Totally.
this wasn't the house with the bees, was it?
Yes, it was with the bees in the wall. Oh my God. I am having such a revelation right now.
I forgot
We lived
about
in
the
Candyman's
You guys
lair.
experienced you were living.
Wait a minute.
Hello, and welcome to Spooky Sips, where we put our love of horror movies into a podcast and sip some spirits along the way. I'm one of your hosts, Yvette. I'm here with my co-hosts, Brianna and Laura.
Hello.
Hey. Okay, so we just watched the 1992 spooky slasher film, Candyman. This movie is basically about a college student at a local, Chicago University that's doing a thesis on Candyman, which is this hooked serial killer who appears when you say his name 5 times in a mirror. And that's basically what the movie is about. And it unfolds from there.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So let's talk about who chose this movie. Laura chose our movie tonight. Laura, why did you choose this movie?
So, to be totally fair, I had been sipping a lot, so I don't exactly remember the full conversation. However, my guess would be I picked it because it was the first scary movie that stood out to me. Maybe that's what it was. Like, what was our first scary movie? So Candyman I was not allowed to watch it by any means.
Yes.
But I somehow snuck it and watched it with a friend, and it gave me nightmares. Like the scariest movie I saw as a kid, for sure.
Yeah.
And I haven't seen it in a long time since. So I actually I didn't remember a lot of it. I remember that there's something about a dog and the man is spooky and this brick wall, but that's about all I remembered.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I had a similar experience. I didn't watch the whole movie, but I saw snippets of it on TV.
Yes.
Yes. And I just remember being so freaked out. I remember the dog scene that stood out to me. And I understand why we weren't allowed to watch this movie because rewatching it as an adult, I had kind of forgotten what it was about. And so I was like, holy shit, this is an actual creepy movie.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's a very even just the let's talk about just the opening credits. That music.
The music
so creepy.
The music is so good.
And quintessential 90s vibes. Yes.
No, it immediately gets you.
Yeah.
What was it about this movie that we all watched too young? I think it was more than just us three. I think this is a shared experience. I think every person watched this movie too young, and I don't know what it was about it.
It's gotta be. Maybe it's just a rite of passage as a kid around our age that you saw this on TV. Maybe they played it on TV a lot or something.
Yeah.
Which is wild to imagine this being on television, but
right.
I don't know.
Maybe the name too, right? Candyman.
Yes.
If you hear that, you want to watch it. It's,
because we grew up with Candyland. The
right.
Game. So Candyman.
Yeah. It just sounds creepy too. Horror movie named Candyman. Yes. Sign me up. Yes. Why not?
It just lends itself to kids wanting to watch it, to kids wanting to get spooked. And because I remember too, with some of the friends that I watched it with as a kid, we then there was Candyman and then there was Bloody Mary. So we did the thing where we then went in front of the mirror and said, I think Bloody Mary, you're only supposed to say 3 times, right?
Yeah.
And Candyman, you're supposed to say 5 times. So we would do that and spook ourselves at sleepovers.
Yep.
Apparently, originally in the script, it was going to be 13 times.
What?
That you were supposed to say Candyman, and luckily they realized that was absurd and changed it to 5.
Good, because
can you imagine?
No,
you would just lose track of time.
You would.
I'm busy. I got stuff to do. I can't be sitting in front of the mirror that long.
No.
I get it. 13's kind of spooky, but I'm not saying something 13 times.
No, it's not going to happen.
No, absolutely not. Except for the word basically, in which we'll say that. Basically,
we'll say that 13.
We don't talk about that. It's fine.
All right. So before we jump into talking about the movie, let's talk about what we're sipping on tonight, because we are themed. We are girls on a theme tonight with our cocktail. Yvette chose our cocktail tonight. So Yvette, what are we sipping on?
I mean, for Candyman, we have to have some candy. right?
Mhm.
Absolutely.
So tonight we are sipping on the rock candy cocktail. It's really essentially just a vodka soda. So make yourself a little vodka soda and then get one of those rock candy stick things to stir it up. And if you're feeling extra fancy, do pop rocks as a garnish.
Oh, yes. Pop rocks. Yes.
I've done that
Classic.
before at a party where you put pop rocks with a shot and it's fun. It's just fun.
Yeah, I was trying to remember. I felt like I had pop rocks as a garnish before. And I thought it was maybe at one of your parties.
It was your 80s party, I think.
It was my 80s themed birthday party
Mhm.
a few years ago. Yep.
That was
Also,
it.
why are pop rocks so hard to find?
I
Like,
know.
They just don't have them
No, you
at
have to
grocery
like go to a
stores.
specialty store to get them now.
Yeah, you have to go to like a party store. So I
Yeah.
thought that was maybe I'm just
That's
out of
where we
touch,
got
but
them.
Yeah. I thought I could just go to like the Fred Meyer, like the Smiths, but no,
No.
they don't have them there.
Ugh, rude.
Yeah,
We
I
have
didn't know
this
there was
really-
such a specialty.
Yeah. We have this really cute candy store downtown. I forget what it's called now. But it's got like all this old fashioned candy and stuff. And so we went there to get a lot of our 80s themed candy, including the pop rocks. And they had so they still obviously make it. Just I think mainstream stores don't sell it.
Yeah, I think they
Right.
sell it like Party City and like party
Yeah.
supply stores and stuff. But
Yeah.
But it's worth the trek because it's delicious.
Yes. Have yourself a sweet treat with Candyman.
Mm-hmm. All right. So let's just get into it. Let's start from the top. Wait, how does the movie start?
Well, it opens up. So we already talked about the music.
Mm-hmm.
But then it opens up with just this I don't know if I'd call it a poem or a reading or something, but this just deep, spooky voice, unsettling voice, just talking about, I don't even remember what all the things that he says, but he's just basically like, it's this threat and this warning, and I will cut you from like
Oh yes, because
for
it talks about like blood being shed, and he's like,
Yes,
what is
blood being
blood
shed.
for if not being shed?
Yes, there you go. That's it.
That's it.
Yes. So yeah, we get that as the intro, and then we fade into the college with lockers, I guess. Where we meet. Wait, okay. Now I'm forgetting how this movie started.
I know. Why can't I remember?
Okay, so I have the first death.
Okay,
I have the first death.
Let's start with death number 1. Breaking
the
down
first
the
death
deaths.
that I put down was it occurred during the telling of an urban legend.
Yes, the babysitter.
Yes. So
thank you. Yes.
So what's happening is the two college people that are or two of the people that are involved in this, what we'll learn later is their study for their thesis. They're telling stories, and so they're interviewing all of these people. Are like, oh, here's this urban legend. But that's the first one we get is where there's a babysitter, and she's dating somebody, but some other bad boy comes over, and so she's just like being real slutty, taking her shirt off. And
in my notes, because I mean, I feel like you're supposed to assume she's like in high school. In my notes, I was like, this man is 30 years old.
I know.
There is no way he's younger than that.
Nope. Yeah. So she like has him go upstairs, but then and then they recite she tells him the legend. They recite it 4 times, but then he leaves, and she's like, no, not up here, go downstairs. Probably because she wants the kid to walk in on them. I don't understand why they'd leave,
even though it's a baby.
But, yeah.
Right. Oh well. Oh yeah, you're right. So then, but then she says the Candyman the 5th time.
Yes, that's right.
So then he comes, he kills her, and then you just see this this hook come through the ceiling. So the not the boyfriend, but the guy she was going to sleep with downstairs. And he looks up at the ceiling and he sees this hook come through and this blood start seeping down. So I think the babysitter and then the baby die.
Yes, yeah, because they say the baby dies. They don't tell us, but okay, yeah, right off the bat,
and his hair turns white. Billy's hair turns white.
Yes.
From horror.
Yes. Which is just a great start, even if for one reason we all forgot.
I know. It was gone from my brain. That's right. And then we pan to Helen and Bernadette, who are the 2 characters that are like studying this for their thesis.
Yes.
Okay. Yes. Thank you.
And they tell the story about Ruthie Jean.
Yes.
They tell the urban legend about her, which is supposed to be more of a local urban legend because it happened at the projects.
Cabrini Green.
Cabrini
Mhm.
Green.
Yes,
So it
which
happened
is
there.
a real life housing project in Chicago.
Yeah.
Where they
actually filmed at.
Oh, that's where they filmed it?
So like some of the like back characters are like actual just people at the projects.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like in the background, like not the people that like talk and act, but like in the background shots, like they're just actual people that live there. Like
yeah, they filmed there for a few days, and it is a legitimately dangerous place to be. So in order to be safe, they had to basically pay off the gang members that lived there. At the time, there were like 5 active gangs that they had to pay off, and part of the agreement was that they let them be background actors in the movie.
Okay, not a bad gig.
Yeah.
Right.
But apparently it was actually kind of scary. It went off pretty much without a hitch until the very last day when someone shot their production van. Luckily, no one got hurt or anything, but it was definitely uneasy when they were filming there. But that was only for a few days. Then they did the rest in Hollywood in a soundstage.
Okay.
Which there is just something very uneasy about this movie. Like it has I caught myself feeling really anxious watching it.
Yes. I think it's because of all the bees that they showed.
Oh my god.
I mean, yeah, the bees are a part of it.
Yeah.
The location is
just the set was so dark and grimy, like grungy, that it just felt wrong.
Yeah. Well, I think when the director, Bernard Rose, he went to just do like scouting for locations. And that's when he said, I kind of want to go actually look at the Chicago housing projects. And, when he went, he said, there is real fear in this location. You can sense it. And it's kind of the perfect setup for a horror movie because the fear is real. People are actually scared to be there. And so they don't need to do much, that you just need to be there and you can tell that people are scared. You know,
that's pretty creative on their part to like film it there.
Yeah.
So props to them.
Yeah. Props to for pulling it off. I would love to know how that negotiation went.
Right.
Talking to like the actual gang members there to be like, hey,
how's it going?
Over here.
Don't mind us.
Yeah.
I almost wonder if they used some of how that went when they did the scene of the 2 women going into the projects, because the way that they kind of go in and there's just the people that are in the housing unit standing outside, and the way they kind of taunt them and follow them, I feel like maybe they used some of their real life experience with approaching it and like, hey, this is how it went.
I think they did. And I think another part of it too was meeting the people who actually live there, and knowing that they're real people, and they met a lot of families and single moms and people that kind of inspired the Anne Marie person that they meet. Like they were trying to show like, hey, these are real people kind of just doing their best. But so like I think they tried to pull from their real life experience for how they did
that. Makes sense.
But I think they did a really good job.
Yeah, me too. So let's see what's next.
So basically
we get kind of a big break with the deaths.
Yeah, we do.
And we've got the 2 college students that go to Cabrini Green to go investigate what was her name of the woman that died?
Ruthie Jean.
So they want to like go, especially Helen. She wants to really go and investigate this.
Yes.
And she has an in because she discovers that her condo, her building for where her condo is an exact replica of the
project Cabrini Green.
Cabrini Green. So she's like, well, I know now how I think this, urban legend of Candyman does it, is these apartments aren't really separated the way you think they are. There's a opening between the mirrors.
Yes.
So because she knows that that's true for her apartment, she's like, okay, well, let's go in person and actually look at what happened with Ruthie Jean.
Yeah. So they go.
Which, by the way, is based on a real story in Chicago.
Is it?
Yes.
No,
so we can. Yeah. Sorry, what were you going to say?
I was just gonna say, I'm remembering one that I thought happened not very long ago, like
The
just a
one,
couple of years
yeah.
ago.
The one that
Or-
this was inspired by, well, the movie came out in 1992. So
Yeah.
the story that this is inspired by happened in like 1987. So it would have been just a few years before. Uh, but that would be the murder of Ruthie Mae McCoy. And if you're thinking, wait, that sounds familiar, the director did that intentionally. He named Anne Marie McCoy after her, and then he also named Ruthie Jean in kind of a way to
like
that
an
was inspired by
homage.
her.
Mhm.
So yeah, we can talk about her story just really quick.
Yeah, let's
So-
talk about it.
So her name was Ruthie Mae McCoy, and she was 52 years old, and she lived in, it was called like the Abbott houses, which were the most dangerous housing projects in Chicago. They were very close to the Cabrini Green, which is the real life one that this was based off of, but even more dangerous. So in terms of your chances of experiencing a crime, it was twice as high as that of Chicago. So like
Wow.
even by Chicago standards, your chances of crime
Wow.
were significantly high. So you did not want to be there. But
No.
you know, life circumstances put her there. She had some mental health problems, which I think went like undiagnosed for a really long time. Eventually they realized that it was probably schizophrenia. And she was doing her best. And this is why the story is so sad. She was really doing her best to get better. So, you know, circumstances made it so she had to live in this housing project. She kind of had no choice. She didn't want to live there and she wanted to get a way out. And so she had gone to a psychiatric hospital. She had gotten diagnosed. She was going 3 times a week. She was doing group therapy sessions, like crafting projects there. She was working towards her GED. Like, it was just such an inspiration. She was 52 years old. When she signed up for the GED class, the person was kind of skeptical. Like, I don't know, like at your age, if you can do this. Like she tested at like a 7th grade level to get into the class. But in just months, she was at a 9th grade level. And she was like, absolutely, in 6 months, you will get your GED. Like her life was going up. Like it was definitely an upward thing. She had also just gotten approved for kind of like an extra like social security income check because of her recent diagnosis and stuff. But unfortunately, because she got that extra income, a lot of people think that made her a target.
Yeah.
So she got approved. She got this extra money and she bought like not a lot of, she bought herself like a coat and some extra like housewares. But a lot of people think that didn't exactly go unnoticed. And so that part of the reason she was targeted was people looking for the money.
Yep.
Oh, that's so sad.
But yeah, so things are going so well. And then April 22nd, 1987, 911 gets a call from Ruthie Mae. And the dispatcher was having kind of a hard time understanding her because reasonably, you know, someone's attempting to break into your apartment. And I don't think she was able to kind of properly explain what was going on.
Yeah.
She was kind of saying like, they broke down the cabinet. They're coming in through my bathroom. Like the dispatcher was kind of having a hard time understanding what was happening. And so they agreed to send an officer, but they labeled it as a neighborly dispute instead of a breaking and entering or, you know, hey, someone's actually in danger.
Yeah.
So police still hadn't shown up like 20 minutes later when more neighbors called 911 after hearing gunshots. So finally the police get there 20 something minutes later, but the door is locked reasonably, like you would.
Right.
So they send someone to go and try to get a key. They get a backup key. It doesn't work. And the cops are like, well, guess we'll just leave.
Oh, no.
So they left. They just left. So someone called the next day to do a welfare check. It was a friend of hers who was like, hey, like I see her every day. She should have been out by now. Like, something's wrong. So they go again. They knock. No one answers. And they decide that they can't break down the door because they don't want to get sued. So they leave. Again. They just left. Yeah. And then finally, again, someone reported again the next day. And then they got someone to go out and unlock the door. And when they entered, they found her. She had been shot 4 times and her bathroom mirror was missing.
Oh my gosh.
So it was very well known that people would go through. So I guess when they made the building, they made it really easy to remove the bathroom mirror so you could access the plumbing for like easy repairs.
Oh.
But people were using it to kind of evade police when they would enter the unit. They knew they could go through there and enter other units, and the mirrors were super easy to remove. It was just a couple nails. Yeah. Which is absolutely wild.
How scary to know that you don't really have like protection in your home.
Yeah. And people knew that this was happening for years. Like for years, people had been reporting it. But
oh my gosh.
You know, the housing projects just did not have the resources to take care of it. But so even today, some people will, like, I've even seen stuff on like YouTube and TikTok of like people who will find, you know, all these like secret rooms and stuff in their houses from when apartments and buildings were just built like that, which is scary.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of. It was recently, like I think it was post-COVID times. And yeah, some woman like went through her medicine cabinet, or it came down, and she realized, no, it was completely vacant apartment, but it was just open to a new apartment inside of her wall. It's like, what?
That would be wild to discover.
Oh my gosh, I know.
And why did they ever think that was a good idea? Like, okay, plumbing issues, that's fine. You can unscrew a couple things to access the wall. Like, what?
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense.
You don't need a shared medicine cabinet between walls. There's no way.
No, absolutely not.
But yeah, so the director, writer had read this story and you know, kind of pulled from it to
I can see that.
I mean, it makes for a great story.
Yeah,
really.
Yeah. No, for sure. If you want to learn more about the case, there is probably the best article I've ever read called "They Came In Through the Bathroom Mirror" by Steve Bagoria, where it is an incredibly long article, but he breaks down everything that happened, kind of the history of the building, everything that happened after. It is such a good like documentation of this case. So we could link it or something, but
we will totally
definitely check it out.
Oh yeah, I want to read it now.
Yeah, we'll totally link it. Oh, wow. Okay, so that's a perfect segue because that's kind of like where we are in the story. So they go to Cabrini Green to go investigate, and
they find the hole.
Find the hole in the bathroom, and Helen decides to go through it, which like does. Mad props to her, because I don't think I would have gone.
No.
Hell no.
Like, mad props to Helen, but also props to Bernadette for sticking around.
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
And for bringing the pepper spray, because she's the one that thought to do that.
I know. So yeah, she goes through the hole in the medicine cabinet and goes into the vacant apartment. And like the set of this movie,
oh my gosh,
it's phenomenal because it really creeps you out. Like, it is disgusting in there and very creepy. And she enters the hole, which we then see a painting of a man's mouth that has been painted around it. And it's like you're entering the man's mouth. And she kind of finds like Candyman's cave.
She finds like a stash of candy that has razor blades in it, which is another urban legend.
Oh, I loved that. I know. I loved the razor blades and the candy.
Yep.
I thought that was so perfect.
And also, speaking of the set, I don't know if we've talked about this before, and Brianna, you might be too young, but the set so reminded me of our basement when we lived in Maine. Or not Maine, New Hampshire.
Yeah. No. New Hampshire. It was totally.
Yeah. We had this unfinished basement where, so we basically lived in half of a mansion. So it like used to be this giant mansion, but they split it up into two just, regular houses. Well, our half of the house had like 5 bedrooms. So this was a huge house. And so the basement though was combined. So the whole footprint of the house was just one basement room. But it wasn't one room. I mean, it was one space, but it was like multiple rooms separated by these brick walls, which had one of the brick walls. It totally was that exact thing where it was like broken out hole through the wall, like someone crashed in through it.
Because then it kind of goes with like the vibe of this movie. Like the house was built in the 1700s. So like it would have been slave corridors down there. Like that actually is what it was used for. So like very kind of creepy feeling down there.
No way it wasn't haunted.
They used to scare the shit out of me down there. Oh my gosh. Like
it was so haunted, so creepy. And because I had seen Candyman as a kid, I was convinced that this was the,
Candyman's lair.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh,
totally.
Wait, this wasn't the house with the bees, was it?
Yes, it was, with the bees in the wall. Oh my God. I am having such a revelation right now.
I forgot about the
Candyman's
You guys
lair.
experienced you were living.
Wait a minute.
Okay, wait, you should explain this to people.
Okay, so you guys, when we lived in this house, you used to be able to put your face up to it or even your hand, and you could like feel these vibrations or hear this humming sound. And it's because the walls were infested with bees.
Yeah.
Guys.
It's the same house.
And I'm pretty sure they were wasps in our house. Like they were, like sweet little honeybees. They were stinging wasps.
I am having such a moment of realizing that we lived in Candyman's lair.
Yes. Yeah. This movie was
my whole
hit different for you guys.
Yeah.
Okay, we need to find pictures of this house.
I know. I think I might. I actually have better.
You have video.
I have video.
You do.
I have video of the basement.
Really?
Yes.
And we watched it a few years ago, and it's not as scary as I remember.
No.
But just if you try to like look at it through a kid's eyes, like it's freaking scary.
Oh my God.
Just remember the wasps in the wall, it adds to it.
Wild.
You guys lived in Candyman's lair.
Yeah, we did.
We absolutely.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So
Anyway.
so she gets lots of pictures of Candyman's lair. Her camera dies though, once she gets back to the real good stuff. So she tries to tell Bernadette she needs to switch film, and Bernadette's like, "No, we're out of here.
No,
absolutely not.
We're done."
No, poor Bernadette.
And that's when they run into the neighbor, Anne Marie. Is that her name? Because she comes into the apartment with her big dog. I don't know what kind of dog that is.
I think it was a Rottweiler.
Oh, it is a Rottweiler. So. Yeah. And is basically like, what are you doing here? Like, are you cops? Are you reporters? Like, and they kind of sweet talk their way into going into her apartment by being like, no, we're okay. We're good. Like,
we're just college students.
We're just college kids. Like, so they get into her apartment and they start to like chat with her. And basically they all realize like, okay, everything's okay. We're just here to like learn more. So she tells them the story of that night, like of how she called the cops and the cops didn't care and they didn't come. Like, yeah. Oh, terrible.
Yes. And then she leaves eventually. And I think they both leave, but I think then just Helen comes back.
Yes.
Yeah. So then we get a little bit more. I think that's where we get a little bit more history, right? On the Candyman, we get like the dinner with the other college professors and stuff, where we get a little bit more of the history on Candyman. And stuff. But then Helen decides to come back on her own, because at this point she's almost drawn to him, right? Because she sees the painting on the wall and she's like gazing into his eyes. Like there's definitely something there that like there's a connection.
There is a connection.
She's like getting visions too, I think, already.
Yes.
So I decided to call that the dude from that dinner Pompous Purcell, because he was just such a pompous
jerk. I like that.
So he tells the legend, and I wrote down some of it.
Oh, yes.
So he says that the legend started in 1890. And Candyman is the son of a slave whose father was this inventor of something really important. But that, of course, I didn't write that part down. But he invented something big, so his dad became really wealthy.
Was he a shoemaker?
Yeah, I think it was a shoemaker.
Oh, maybe.
Yeah, I think he was a shoemaker.
He invented something that everybody used, or So Candyman was, raised up really kind of like elite and wealthy. But then somebody hired him to maybe was he an artist or something?
Yes. Yeah.
So they hired him for that, but then he ended up destroying some man's daughter's virginal beauty.
Oh, wow.
So after he destroyed her virginal beauty, aka
eye roll,
had sex with the white woman, which is apparently not allowed.
Right.
Then to get back at him, they sawed his hand off with a rusty blade. Which also, I feel like the word sawed, the past tense of saw being sawed, sounds strange to me.
It does sound strange.
Yeah.
There wouldn't be anything better, but it just sounds weird.
Sawn.
No,
that sounds worse.
Because like sewn.
Right? Like it sounds weird. But yeah, so then they covered him. I think they covered him in honey.
Yes.
And then let these is it an aviary? Is that what bees are? Or what?
A topiary?
No, I think
no, topiary is the fancy bushes, right?
Yeah, that's a topiary because those are like the things in
Listen, we're not botanists. Okay.
I also can't think of The Shining. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, we're not botanists here on Spooky Set.
Oh, aviary is for birds.
No, apiary.
Apiary, that's it.
With the P, yes.
Zippers, I'm a little sick, so my brain is not functioning on all cylinders.
Sure, that's the problem.
That's what it was.
Apiary.
Sure, I wouldn't have known.
Yeah, Brianna and I don't have any excuse
for like monkeys.
No, bees.
We're not archaeologists.
We're not archaeologists.
We're not botanists. We're not anthropologists.
Not philanthropists.
Anyway,
apiary.
Talking about
they released the bees from the apiary and they stung. They stung Candyman to death.
Yep.
Yes. And then they scattered his ashes over Caprini Green.
Yes.
Why would you do that?
To trap him there.
Yeah,
that's what
just to not let him rest.
Not let
after death.
Because they then also. Later in the movie, Candyman talks about his congregation and his followers.
Right.
So maybe it was like people of his congregation and followers that kind of wanted him around.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's the legend of Candyman.
So she goes back to take more photos because her camera died. So she goes back in the hole and takes more photos.
Yep.
And that's when she runs into a little boy whose name is
Jake.
Jake, thank you.
How cute was Jake?
He was so cute.
Cute.
They found the perfect actor. He was perfect.
Like her little mini detective.
So good. And apparently the actor, like himself, he was known as One Take Jake on set because he was actually really good. Like they could get all his scenes done in one take and he was done.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So she kind of like goads him into taking her to where Candyman is. Yes. So Jake takes her outside to the bathrooms, which I have to say, like, I've seen a lot of horror movies and I've seen like a lot of upsetting things. Like this bathroom actually was like disturbing to see.
It was disgusting.
They did such a good job, and this is partially, again, probably because I'm a little bit sick, but I was actually gagging. Like, I felt like I could smell it, and I was like,
like on the wall is words written.
Sweets to the sweet.
Yes, sweets to the sweet, and it's written in feces.
Yeah. Well, again, it's like they just play into real fears, right? Like, how many times have you had to go to a public restroom where it's like, I don't want to go in there. You know, I don't want to know what's happening. We've all had that experience. And so when we see that, we can channel back to it and we know how awful this is.
Yeah. And I've also experienced people writing with poop on the walls. So,
that's
gross.
a story for another day.
Yeah. My job is not always glamorous.
Yeah. Well, don't worry, guys. It wasn't real poop. They used chocolate biscuits and they were British, so I think that's cookies,
say, like,
right?
Candy. Yeah. I was wondering if it was like chocolate candy, like candy bars.
Yeah, I think they did kind of like a mixture of a bunch of like cookies and stuff.
I'm gonna vomit.
Yeah.
I'm just imagining like the people that like the set people going and writing it on, and they just spill a little, but it's just a real biscuit, so they just like their fingers.
Gross.
Oh, so gross. The poop graffiti. Yeah.
So I love the cinematography of this scene. Like, I love the way that they do it because we've got Jake telling the story of what happened to another little boy while she's in there. While she's in there, like walking through. And so we've got his voiceover telling the story. So we're kind of seeing two different scenes at the same time. Like, we're seeing the scene of when the little boy was discovered that happened a while ago, and then we're seeing her current walkthrough. So like, we're seeing these two scenes kind of overlaid. And I just love the way that it's done with the voiceover of him telling the story.
Yeah, the storytelling, because you're already uncomfortable watching her go in there, and they found a way to make it worse, right? Where it's like, oh God, the little boy's in there, as you're listening to the story. So so good.
So Candyman does not kill this little boy. And I think this is the last little boy who like told someone about Candyman. Like, I think that's why it was a warning or something, maybe.
Yeah, it was I
But
forget the story.
Candyman did not kill him. Candyman just cut off his penis
and left it floating in the toilet.
And then put it in the toilet.
Yeah.
And so we don't see that happen, but we see the little boy lying in a pool of blood, kind of holding,
we do.
Crying. And then, again, we're seeing the two scenes overlaid. So then we see her see the toilet, and there's a poo written arrow going to the toilet, the closed lid. So she lifts the lid up, and this time it's a bunch of bees.
Yes.
Bees.
Yes.
Filled with bees.
So and then we get
I have an interesting fact about the bees.
Oh, yes.
So the bees had to be, for this scene, and there's a scene later on where there's bees, but they had to be 12 days old. Exactly. So they bred the bees specifically for this film. Like, these weren't just bees they found at a farm. They're bees that were bred for this film, because to be 12 days old is when...
It's 12 hours.
Oh, 12 hours. Sorry. Thank you. 12 hours old, because they look like mature bees, but their stingers won't do harm. So they look like big bees. Like, they look like, I am a grown-up bee, but their stingers aren't matured enough to like do a bunch of damage.
Isn't it crazy that they're that big? Like, so
12
quickly?
hours.
I don't know why I assumed there'd be like a baby bee and then they would grow to be bigger.
I know, right?
Well, and for how long? Like, do they have like 30 minutes before the stingers come in or something? Like, how?
They probably have a window of hours.
Yeah.
Fascinating. I know.
Like, it's probably like a couple of hours that they've got a window when they can use them.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
Which would still be scary. Even if you knew they couldn't sting, or they were less likely to sting.
No, bees are freaky.
Be scary.
So she opens the toilet bowl and it's full of bees. And then
we get Candyman. Outside the bathroom.
Yep. And he comes in and he's got his friends with him. They basically are like mad at her for being there.
Yeah.
And he's got a hook hand. And he whacks her up against the side of her face, and that's all we see. And then it cuts to the little boy outside, back to Jake. So Jake goes into the bathroom and basically discovers her, and then it cuts to the scene of her at the police station, doing the lineup. Like, identify him. And caught him. They caught the guy that was posing as Candyman. And the bruise on her face, the makeup department for this movie is phenomenal, because it looked like, think 1992 and how good that makeup.
Yeah. Like, no, they knocked it out of the park. The makeup department, they understood every assignment, because they nailed it.
Phenomenal. It's the most gruesome black eye I've ever seen.
Yeah. Also, I feel like there was something kind of funny, right, about cutting to like the lineup Like, I feel like that was one of the few scenes that was like actually kind of funny in this movie. We get a little break.
Yeah.
They gave us a little something
reprieve.
There. Yeah.
Because he said the line of something bitch. I forget what it was.
It's like, like we heard you're looking for Candyman, bitch, or something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
Something like
then
that.
all of a sudden you just see like these one by one guys like
people
walk forward and say it, and it's pretty good.
Yes. So at this point, we're like, is Candyman real? Right?
Yeah, because this is what Helen had been saying, like that they were so afraid in their life, in their day to day, that they had kind of created this legend to justify the horrors that surrounded them every day. So like this is kind of backs up her thesis of what she had thought who Candyman was. So we're like, okay.
That's it. She caught Candyman.
Cut to her and Bernadette walking through the parking garage once they're like back at school, and Bernadette is like, oh, hey, I found your photos for you. Oh, because they had smashed her camera. These guys had smashed the camera. And so, Bernadette leaves and she's like, okay, I'll see you later. And this is when we get to the parking garage scene where we just hear Helen.
Top scene. That was
Helen.
Tony Todd's voice.
Oh,
and
amazing.
That's just him. They didn't like add anything extra or like
just
do
his
indentation
of how he says her name.
Yeah.
So good. I would love to hear that in a movie theater. Like,
would have been so good.
Surround sound as loud as you can get. I would have loved to have heard that because it was so good.
Chilling.
Yes.
Chilling.
And so way behind her, we see this figure
in this beautiful fancy coat.
Beautiful coat.
And fancy shoes.
Yes.
But we're like, oh shit, wait. This is Candyman.
Yes.
This is Candy. And do we see the hook here? Is this where we see?
Yeah, we see all of him.
Close. Yeah. And they kind of pan to his hook. And it, again, with the makeup department, like that is the most disgusting wound I have ever seen, because it's basically like this hook is just nailed to the stump that was.
Oh, yeah. His bloody stump.
Oh, it was the introduction of him was so good. It was so good.
He kind of hypnotizes her. So he kind of like gets into her brain and almost paralyzes her. And then the next thing we know, she wakes up, we hear screaming, and she wakes up in a pool of blood.
Yes.
Like kind of mostly like around her waist, but just a giant pool of blood in a bathroom at the Caprini Green.
Because it almost looks like she wanted to run away, right? Or no, she does try to run away or like run into her car. But she kind of like, we see a flashback to the painting, and she's kind of just still. So the director, Rose, he hates people screaming in horror movies. He finds it so annoying. Like he does not like it in horror movies where you get like the loud, shrill, like, like that. He doesn't like it. So he thought, instead of doing that, what if she was kind of hypnotized into looking at him? That was his alternative to it. And so to prepare, the actress, Virginia Madsen, they actually went to a hypnotist to try to hypnotize her. She didn't think it was going to work, but she swears while they were doing it, all of a sudden her like arm was up, and it had been, and she didn't notice. And so the hypnotist gave the director like a trigger word to use on set that he would use to kind of like get her back into this hypnotized state. So she insists that the hypnotism did work and that the director used it on set to get her into that kind of space. And actually she did it. By the end of filming, she was like, please stop doing that, because
that is so
it got to the point where she swears she couldn't remember things that were happening.
Interesting.
That's like disturbing to like really think about the ramifications of that. Like, I'd be freaked out knowing that someone could just take control of me.
Yeah. So, I mean, people are like, I don't know, she's incredibly talented, so she could just pull off looking hypnotized.
Right.
But does she believe that the hypnotism worked, and did that help her? You know,
into
maybe.
this trance state. Interesting.
Yeah.
Cool.
But I feel like that was I also hate the like super loud, shrill scream in horror movies. I'm not a fan.
Time and a place, but I hate when it isn't fitting for the movie.
And when it's really
or it's
long.
just too much.
Yes.
Yes.
So much.
Yeah.
Yes. Like if I'm watching Scream, I expect it. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
I mean, that's in the name.
Yes.
I know what I'm getting in for with that.
Right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right.
But I loved it. I'm so happy he did that. I feel like that was way better to have her be kind of like in this trance all of a sudden as a reaction. Oh,
That's
so
amazing.
good. And more powerful, I think.
Yeah, it's a fresh take on it too. So I think it sticks with you more.
It is a fresh take. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, she wakes up in the bathroom and she's in this trance-like state. And is the meat cleaver in there with her?
Yes, because she picks it up.
So she picks up the meat cleaver and she opens the door to kind of like get her bearings and figure out where she is. Cause at this point, she doesn't know where she is.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
She blacked out.
When she sees the dog head, I mean, it's not a dog, it's just a head.
Just the head.
Just the head of a dog, which I just remember this from my childhood.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's the second death is the dog.
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 And just so much blood.
Yeah.
So much blood.
So much blood.
And that is when we finally start to hear screaming from the bedroom.
Yes.
And we hear Anthony being screamed. And that's when Helen like opens the bedroom door and she sees the mom over the crib, which the crib is full of blood as well. Like there's all this blood splattered everywhere. She's just screaming Anthony. And then she starts her screaming at Helen because what did you do with my baby, basically? And so then she like goes after Helen. And so Helen, like in defense of herself,
it's like attacks her back.
Anne-Marie in the arm with the meat cleaver. And that's what
it doesn't look good. It
doesn't look great.
But at this point now we hear police at the door and they're like breaking the door down. And so the police come in and see Anne-Marie like holding her wound, screaming for her baby, and Helen just holding this meat cleaver.
Right.
And they're like, okay, yeah, we see what happened.
Well, you're fucking arrested. Like,
yeah. Rightly so.
Yeah.
So then she gets arrested.
Yep.
And we cut to the police station.
Yes.
Oh.
And for the scene where they first cut in, where she is like taking her clothes off to like gift to them as evidence, the police officer, I'm forgetting the actress's name. She has a cool name. She has like a memorable name that I'm forgetting. It was actually a friend of the actress. So she was hoping that she could be with someone who she felt more comfortable with for that scene. Yeah. So she asked that it be her friend, which is kind of cool that they let them do that. That is
cool.
Oh, okay. The policewoman's name, like the actress who played her, is Rusty Schwimmer, which I feel like is such a cool name.
That name.
I don't know. Yeah, it's such a cool name.
Any relationship to David?
I don't know.
That's the only other Schwimmer I know, personally.
Only one other Schwimmer. Personally. Okay, so yeah, so she's been arrested and
she calls her son of a bitch husband to bail her out.
Okay, can we also talk about the husband?
Yes.
Trevor.
Of course his name is Trevor, and I'm sorry to any of our listeners.
I'm sorry if your name is Trevor. I'm sorry.
Trevor, I'm sorry.
Your name is Trevor. Sorry. Sorry, not sorry.
But of course, his name is Trevor.
So who knew? I knew from the beginning Trevor was a sleaze bag.
He knew from the beginning.
Instantly.
Say one of the opening scenes, like she goes to his classroom and there's these students hanging out with him. One of them is like Stacy. Again, sorry if your name is Stacy.
Allegedly.
Allegedly. Her name is Stacy.
And she like shakes her hand.
Yes.
Who does that?
Stacy.
She was just, obviously they were already sleeping together.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody knows. The wife knows. We know.
Everyone knows.
Everybody knows. So yeah, anyway, she calls her SOB husband, Trevor, to bail her out. And he does, and he gets her a lawyer. And
the next day.
Yeah, Oh, then he was gone, boy.
Because he was gone.
He was having sex with Stacy.
Yeah.
Was that her name?
Stacy, yeah. I think it was, yeah.
Feels right.
She was not significant enough to me.
Trevor and Stacy.
Gross.
Again, sorry, listeners.
Gag me.
To be your
Oh, man.
Anyways.
She's bailed out. They go back home. And, okay, this scene too, right? She's taking a bath, trying to kind of recover from, hey, what just happened? I was just arrested. A baby's missing. And freaking Trevor is like, hey, so like, I have to go run like a quick errand.
I'll be right back.
I'll be like right back though. You're cool, right? Like
he was going for a quickie. Yeah.
What a jerk.
The real villain.
The real villain of this movie is Trevor.
It's Trevor.
Absolutely.
It's absolutely Trevor.
So
anyway,
then
Trevor leaves.
Yeah. And then Bernadette comes over.
Before Bernadette gets there, she gets visited by Candyman.
Yes.
Correct. Yeah.
So
the hook through the mirror.
He gets out of the tub and the hook comes through the mirror.
Yes.
Which is such a good scene.
Yes. Oh, okay. Quick fun fact with that one. The actress who played Helen did not know that they were going to do that scene.
I love
when they do that.
I love finding out when producers and directors just fuck with the actors.
Yes.
So I mean, I hate it for them, but it's amazing.
I know, poor Shelley Duvall.
So that was a completely authentic reaction. She ran completely offset. Like,
oh my God.
That is her reaction to it. She runs like out of the bathroom, out of the fake apartment, off the set, just completely runs away. Yeah. And Tony Todd, who like, if this doesn't tell you what kind of person, he seems like such a nice person. He did not want to do it. The directors, they asked him and he did not want to do it. He felt so bad. And then after the scene, he went up to her and he apologized because he felt so bad that she was actually scared. And, obviously she forgave him and stuff. But I was like, he just seems like such a sweetheart to go out there and be like, I'm sorry, I didn't want to do it.
I didn't mean it. Oh, but it's such a good scene. And so she runs and, she runs out of the apartment, but there he is.
He's there.
Can't escape him. So she comes back in and they kind of have a face off and he nicks her with his hook
on her neck.
And she kind of falls back and is semi-unconscious. She's trying to like get up and that's when we hear Bernadette at the door.
Yeah.
She's trying to yell like, Bernadette, go, he's here, leave, run away. Like, but she doesn't. She opens that door and goes inside and Candyman gets her.
Oh,
yeah.
He really gets her.
Oh yeah. She was then blue the next we saw her when the police came. Like, how did she get blue so fast?
Again, the makeup department had a field day.
Yes, they did.
I feel like they made her decay a little bit quicker than would be humanly possible.
Well,
but maybe it was by the magic of Candyman.
Yes.
Maybe.
You know what I mean? Like,
rules don't apply if you're killed by a ghost.
And so Trevor comes in and basically, and for some reason, she has a knife now. Helen has a knife.
Oh, I think, yes, that's right. She does.
She's holding a knife.
Yeah, I think she had gotten it to defend herself against Candyman.
Yes. So when Trevor comes in, here is Helen laying on the ground after like what looks like having murdered Bernadette.
Yeah.
And so the next thing we know is Helen is getting shipped off to the loony bin.
Yep.
Where she has another encounter with Candyman while she's in restraints at the loony bin. And I shouldn't call it that.
It is called an institution. Brianna.
The institution.
Be sensitive.
What was I saying?
So in the loony bin,
In the institution.
She says with eyes in the back of her head.
In the institution, air quotes.
Yes.
Candyman is like hovering over her and he like wants a kiss.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
He's like getting real creepy. Like he's already been talking about how like you need to come with me, you're supposed to be with me, whatever.
Yeah.
But now he's like, I just need a one sweet kiss or whatever.
Yeah.
It's very, very creepy.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
those creepy vibes for sure.
And then he goes under the bed.
And then he goes under the bed and they medicate Helen.
Mm-hmm.
And then bam.
At this point, I'm wondering, what are thoughts? Like at this point, because I couldn't remember this movie, I was thinking, is Candyman real? Or is she just in a psychotic state? She's having delusions and hallucinations and these fears of persecution. Like she's invented Candyman in her brain.
Mm-hmm.
See, I knew that Candyman was real because
Okay.
I will always believe you. If you come to me,
That's
even
true.
if you're fucking crazy, if you come to me and you're like, it's happening, there's a ghost, I will be like, yeah, there is, let's get him.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm ready to fight.
That is our pact. That is our pact.
Well, and I know Candyman is real to her. Like, so it's
Yeah.
not like he's not there in her reality, but in other people's reality is.
I still believed that Candyman was real at this point.
I was not sure. I was not sure.
I was sure. I was still sure.
I was definitely back and forth until the next scene where she's meeting with the psychiatrist and they show her the video of that day where she got there, where
Because we find out that she's been there for a month.
Mm-hmm.
So they played
just
her back her first day video.
She's just been loaded up on Thorazine for a month.
Yes.
And they play her back the video and there's nobody there.
Yeah.
But see, I knew that. I knew that he wouldn't be there because I knew that he wasn't a physical manifestation. So like for me, that didn't make any difference. I was like, oh, of course he doesn't show up on the thing.
How interesting. I almost thought like, oh, maybe it is just Helen. To me, that scene really made me question whether or not
Right.
it was actually her doing all of this.
And then even later on, he talks about like how he's like a rumor, an idea, and that's even better than being alive. And so like then you kind of get to Brianna's, I guess, understanding of it. But at the time, I'm like, all of this can be explained that she is having these delusions and hallucinations and blackouts. Like she doesn't remember. So she really doesn't know that she did it. She really thinks Candyman did it. But at the same time, it all can be explained away.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm getting into my psych segment early.
How
So
he wants it.
yeah,
I mean, yes. But then we get Helen who says, you know what? I can prove it to you. I can prove to you, Mr. Psychiatrist,
Dr. Burke,
he's real. And so
Dr.
she looks over to the
summons him.
mirror and says Candyman 5 times. And who appears behind the psychiatrist immediately stabs him.
And just guts him. Just from the back. I mean, he backs him. He back guts him, but he just gets him.
Oh, okay,
And
wait.
she's in
Now,
restraints.
did you guys watch the regular or the unrated version?
Regular.
oh yeah, I only watched whatever one Brianna.
You watched the regular.
The regular. Okay. So I watched the unrated because I've now gotten in the habit of only renting the DVDs. And when I went to rent it, it came with 2, which I was surprised about. One was the unrated, one was the theatrical release, which is rated R. And I looked it up and really it's like this scene that is the main difference between the two. And it's just a little, we get to see more of the psychiatrist die, a little bit more of his reaction, a little bit more blood. If you're trying to decide which one you should watch, honestly, it's not a big difference.
Okay. That's good to know.
That is good to know.
I think it was a very minor, very slightly more blood, slightly more time seeing what's happening and stuff. But they have the exact same runtime. Like they're both the exact same time for the movie. So yeah, it's very, very slight difference. I didn't think it was that much
worth it, right?
In the uncut. So
yeah.
But yeah, then we get Candyman. Unties her and then jumps out the window. It's so good.
So she's out of here. So the first thing
crashes out the window.
So the first thing she does is go back to Trevor's apartment. Their apartment. I should say their apartment. She goes back to their apartment,
which is getting painted
pink.
Is she 12?
Is she 16? Like, it's like baby salmon pink.
She is a teenager.
I mean, she is a teenager.
Yes.
She's probably 18 or 19.
Okay. And even at 18 though, come on, Stacey, that color's disgusting.
Yeah, at 18, I was like in my maroon phase, not
my. It was like 18 in like the early 90s. So,
I know once it dried, I was like, oh my God, I remember apartments being this color.
You guys, that's the color of my bathrooms. So
I was like, this is such a flashback for me, like of a 90s time. Like,
so Spooky Sippers, if you haven't been to my bathroom, mine is not from the 90s, mine is from the 1959. Well, I think most of our sippers have been, because most of them are our friends and family.
No, they're not. We've got a wide fan base.
At this point, we have a little more variety, Laura.
Following this episode, there's going to be an Instagram poll.
Have you been to Laura's bathroom?
Have you ever been to my
Laura's bathroom?
And the color of the walls is the color of my bathroom, which is not paint, but it is pink. But
it's tile.
But it's tile. Yeah.
It's not like you painted it that color. It's tile.
Correct. But it reminded me of the color of my bathroom. So.
Yeah. But it was a lot. And she was painting the whole apartment pink.
We've gotten distracted.
It was too much.
It's a lot.
Gotten distracted. What happened is,
let's talk more about the color of bathroom.
No, yeah, but we do need to talk more about that scene though, because when Stacey sees Helen, her immediately starts crying, just like, oh my gosh. And then Trevor comes in and he's like, did you get a boo-boo?
So gross. Like, just call him daddy and we've got our day done.
It's so gross.
So gross.
It is the grossest moment. Okay, because we should say what has happened is Helen has run back to their apartment and Stacey is painting the apartment pink.
Yes.
That's what, I don't think we said that, but that's what that rant, 5-minute rant that we just went
implied
on was.
We should, for our Instagram posts on this, just post pictures of my bathroom.
We will.
This is all you need to know.
We will. I'm going to come over and get pictures of your bathroom. So.
Sounds good.
So, yeah, Stacey sees Helen and just starts whimpering. Is the best word.
At this point, you're ruined for Helen. It's like, you know what? Yeah. Call Candyman.
And so they basically, Trevor has decided to keep Helen locked up. He's given up on her. He's left her for Stacey, moved on with his life.
After 1 month.
After one month.
1 month.
Now, in his defense, if his wife has become this serial killer.
This insane serial killer.
Okay, yeah, fair. But if I went insane and didn't kill anyone, I would hope people would give me more than a month. Just like, hey, how you are you on your meds?
Even if I went insane and did kill people, I want more than a month, for God's sake.
And Trevor was a dick well before.
And he was sleeping with Stacey before this.
Oh yes,
nothing.
Oh yes.
Anyway,
we have thoughts.
We talked more about this than the rest of the whole movie.
I know, we really did. I didn't know the scene was so triggering for us.
Right?
Very, very triggering.
Or we've also just all poured a second drink.
Maybe that's it. Maybe that's it. That's fair.
And what happens next?
So Helen leaves because Trevor.
There's no hope there for her.
Yeah.
No.
So she leaves and she has decided, because she's getting these telepathic messages from Candyman. She has decided I'm going to surrender myself to Candyman so that baby
Anthony
baby Anthony can, because she he says, you'll save baby Anthony, which this baby has been alive for like a long time at this point.
Yeah, right?
Over a month.
Well, we do see one weird scene where he like feeds the baby blood.
Was it blood?
I thought it was honey.
Oh, I thought it was blood.
I had a question.
Yes.
Okay.
I was not sure.
Mhm.
Maybe a bit of both. A little bit of column A, a little bit of column B.
A
Yeah.
little bloody
a
honey.
little bit of both. Yeah.
Okay. Well,
That's what our cocktail should have been.
Yes. Wait, what was your question?
Oh, did I have a question?
You just say I have a question?
You just said you had a question.
You just said I have a question.
No, I was saying that was the question I wrote down.
Oh,
like, was it
honey
blood
or blood?
honey? No, I don't
yeah.
currently have a question.
Oh, okay. See, I thought it was honey. Which, fun fact, you're not supposed to feed babies honey.
No, you're not, because
you're not.
botulism.
Botulism.
Botulism is real, people.
Yeah.
Yeah, botulism kills.
Don't feed your baby or any baby honey.
Here's the
okay?
PSA of this spooky sips.
Mm-hmm.
Don't give your baby honey. We have devolved. We have devolved.
We could have just saved a baby's life, Brianna. So
I'm
this
sorry.
is really
Yeah.
important.
We're doing God's work. I'm
We
sorry.
Candyman's work.
We're doing Candyman's work.
So
No, he fed the baby honey.
Okay, yeah, but like I don't think he knew, so it's okay.
back on track.
He was from a time when botulism didn't matter.
Yeah,
Again,
it's
we
fine.
talked more about botulism than the whole movie.
All right, ladies, let's rein it in. So, the next thing that I wrote down was
Botulism.
the sound of the crunch. So Helen is surrendering herself to Candyman.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
That sounds so sexual.
Tell me if I'm.
I mean,
it was.
it was. I mean, yeah. This is a romantic
I'm gonna
movie.
surrender myself to Candyman.
I mean,
yeah. No,
he literally says that, right? He's like, "Be my victim."
Oh
Like,
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh
Well,
yeah.
hot.
play.
Right?
Yeah.
Sure.
So she's surrendering herself, and
She on Valentine's Day.
she starts to get covered in bees.
Oh,
And then he has bees filled in his mouth. And then he goes to kiss her, and you hear this scrunch. So I'm just picturing this like scrunch of all the bees on their skin and in his mouth as they kiss.
yeah.
It was such a small detail, but it was
full of, because was CGI a thing? Like what
No. So these were real bees.
in his mouth?
In his mouth. Yes. Yes. So, I mean, really, basically in the whole movie, they used real bees for everything. They used over 200,000 bees on set. They had a handler who took care of all of it. So for that scene, they created basically a mouth guard that Tony Todd put in his mouth with like latex siding. And then
like a dental dam.
Yeah. And then the beekeeper came and then just kind of filled his mouth with bees. And, for the scene, he would open his mouth and they all started coming out. Apparently, it did a pretty good job, the thing that they built. But at one point, he did feel a bee get through, and he could feel it walking towards like the back of his throat.
Nope.
And I mean, they did a really good job actually of taking care of the bees. So they used this like little vacuum to get the bees off of them. It took like 45 minutes to get the bees off. So they were like carefully removing the bees as he's like, yeah, there's like one in the back of my throat right now. Hurry up a little bit.
Bees. Don't mind
Yeah.
me.
Wow.
And the actress Virginia Madsen is allergic to bees.
No,
she's
that
not.
She is. And she told the director, like, hey, I don't know if I can do this role because I'm allergic to bees. And he said,
Right.
No, that's not true. Go get tested. So they paid for her to go get tested at like the hospital, like UCLA hospital.
Right.
And they confirmed, yes, you're very allergic to bee venom. Don't get stung by bees.
Oh my
So
God.
for her, especially, they used very baby bees who like didn't even have the stinger yet. So her chances were very, very low, but they had paramedics on site for every scene
Wow.
that she had to do with the bees.
They must
Because
have
Tony
really
Todd
wanted-
had more adult bees on
Right.
him.
He had the more 12 days.
So there were chances of still getting stung, but she said it was actually okay. I mean, she didn't get stung. The way that they did it is the beekeeper applied like this bee pheromone onto her face.
Okay.
Which kind of makes the bees think that you're the queen bee. So obviously they wouldn't sting you.
Oh,
that's cool.
Yeah. So like they weren't going to attack her. Kind of just makes them want like attract
Mama
her face. Yeah. But she said it kind of just felt like little Q-tips on your face.
Weird.
Like after you got over the fact that you have a bunch of bees on you.
Like that would be such a mind over matter moment where you just have to be like, okay, like I'm okay. It's okay. Like that would be such a mind thing.
Well,
yeah.
it's like the actress in Better Watch Out who had the huntsman that we talked about. Huntsman spider on her. Like you just gotta
get it out of your head.
No, yeah, they both talked about basically having to go in like an almost trance-like state to get through the scene because you just kind of have to accept that they're there. Tony Todd did get stung well over 20 times in shooting the movie. But according to him, he had a very good lawyer. And so he negotiated $1,000 per sting, which would be about the equivalent of $2,000 today. So he made like $23,000 extra dollars.
Good for him.
Yeah. Which good for him. Absolutely. He deserves it.
Well, that's amazing.
Right? Apparently before they shot the beekeeper, Norman Gary asked Tony Todd to come like see the bees. They had their own trailer, you know, obviously, where they kept all the bees. He said, like, you have to come and you have to humanize them.
Yeah, you have to socialize.
So he entered the room. Yeah. And he was trying to be like, yeah, you know, like, that's Gary and that's Todd. Like, trying to be like, you need to humanize the bees.
But they're bees.
Right.
That's amazing.
I do have to say that it is a little weird just because, you know, in 92, probably the bee population was not as at risk as it is now. But now hearing about that they just use these live bees bred specifically for this movie, I'm like, oh.
Well, no, actually
they didn't kill them.
No, they didn't. They had an animal rights group, and the beekeeper was like a PhD level like animal like keeper. So they tried to protect the bees, and so whenever the bees were in the scene, they had nets set up all the way around so the bees couldn't escape. And they always use this, like, it just looks like a vacuum, but it's like safe for the bees. So they use this little vacuum to just suck them all up and put them back in the hive. So they were actually really safe with the bees. Yeah. Which is just so funny. Just a little bee vacuum.
I love that.
I
love that. I really do.
But yeah, that scene though.
Oh, so good. So so it's basically got all that happening, and then she just wakes up.
Well, after he tells her it was always you, Helen.
Right.
And then she even sees that written down after she wakes up. Like, so now we're starting to get this story that had been told by Pompous Purcell.
Yes.
Where there's the man and then there's the woman that he loved, and it's almost like, wait a second.
Is she the woman?
Is she like this reincarnation of this?
And we think that she is, because at this point, all signs point to it. And so she just wakes up and she's like freaking out that there's bees on her, but there's no bees. And I'm trying to remember.
Because she starts walking around, which is when she sees the portrait, when we start getting like, oh, it was always you, Helen, which I think you can interpret as kind of both. It was his long lost love that, you know, was kind of reincarnated as her. But also, I think you can interpret it as she was the one who did the killing. Because I still don't think you can explain away all of them.
That's what I wondered.
Yeah, that's what I thought they were going for. Because I think they said it before they showed you the picture. And so my first thought was that it was actually her who did the killing.
That's what I thought too.
Yeah.
Which, I don't know. I think it's good that they left it ambiguous.
It's
I think
up to our own interpretation. So then the next thing that I have that happened was that earlier on in the movie, outside of the project apartments, there had been this big pile for a bonfire that was being built.
Pyre.
Pyre. And that was part of the story too. That Pompous Purcell had said. And so she hears a baby crying, and she hears it coming from the pyre.
Yep.
And the kid, Jake, had been telling her, or had told her, like, oh, well, that's for the party.
Yeah.
And remember, she found a hook.
And
so
she found a hook.
She's carrying a hook around.
Yes.
So yeah, she's carrying a hook, and so she carries it into the pyre, and she's kind of using it to like help her break into the pyre to like get to the baby. So she's like scavenging her way through this bonfire pile to get to the baby, and she sees him. So she crawls through, but what happens is she's holding the hook up when she's like in the bonfire pile, and Jake sees the hook.
Oh,
he's like,
yes, he's in there. We got him.
We gotta get him. So he like gets a little group together, and they're like, we're gonna set this shit on fire. It's gonna happen.
Yeah.
And so they go and they like light it up with gasoline, like while she's simultaneously looking for the baby. And so it all kind of happens all at the same time.
Yes. So yeah, we see Helen making her way through. We find out Candyman is in there with her, trying to keep her in as the community comes down to set this fire.
Yep.
Yeah, and everyone is just spilling out from Cabrini Green to like come to the bonfire.
But she's trying to save the baby. So as Candyman's trying to hold her in, I just loved it. There's one scene where she picks up this piece of flaming wood, and she like stabs Candyman with like the piece of flaming wood.
Yes.
Which is just amazing. And then she is catching fire because all of these pieces of wood are falling on her. She's catching fire, saving baby Anthony, pulling him out of the fire. And it was just such an amazing job they did. I wrote down, how much did she look like Megan at the end of Megan?
Oh my gosh,
that's what I thought.
So at the end of Megan,
true.
Sippers, we had talked about how Megan, in a movie we watched a couple times ago, as she's being destroyed, she's like bald, her head's like, her hair's been burned, and her like face is all gone. I just feel like Megan took their inspiration from Candyman, from Helen.
And again, the makeup department, they did it. I did not want to look at her. Like they did
it was
such
awful.
It looked real. It looked
it looked so painful. It looked so
actress, painful. Virginia, because the makeup takes a really long time, so you kind of have to sit in it for a while. She said no one would have lunch with her that day. So bad. And it was pizza day.
Of course it was pizza day.
So people just kind of noped right out there. So she had to spend a day alone eating her pizza by herself because people couldn't handle that.
I would have had pizza with you.
Virginia, we would have had pizza with you.
I just would be a little nervous that parts of your like makeup bits would fall out into the pizza.
Right? Oh, it's such a good. Okay, now, did you guys think she was going to live?
Yes.
So
I did.
Here's what I wrote down. I wrote down that I thought Candyman might have been the fifth death because it seemed like she killed him.
Oh,
but
yeah.
I wrote, no, wait.
The burning body.
The burning body.
And like all these sparks go up.
But then I thought
the flaming bees.
Yes, the flaming bees. But then I thought that she was the sixth death.
Yes.
Which then we do see her dead.
Yeah.
Because she does save Anthony, we should say.
Yes.
So she saved Anthony, but she perishes because the next scene is her funeral.
Yeah. I didn't really think she was about it. I didn't think she was gonna die. I mean, it's a horror movie, right? You get the final girl, like that she always lives.
And then here's where I got confused. So we're at the funeral scene, and there's not a lot of people there at her funeral, like graveside.
No, don't worry. It's Trevor, Stacy,
the Purcell guy.
Oh yeah.
Another dude. So that's it. But then in the background, they're like, Trevor, look. And all the people from the projects come. So we've got Anne Marie, and she's got Anthony, and she's with Jake. And they all come. But there's the moment where they drop the hook into her grave. And I thought, why are they doing that to her?
Right?
I think it's
I-
because they're part of the congregation now.
Well, see, then I got it. Once we then go to the next scene with Trevor, I was like, oh, they did it intentionally. But at first I was confused.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it was a little like, wait, why are you doing that?
I was like, don't curse her.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But then I was like, oh no, they want to make her the next Candyman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they do.
Also, can we talk about her makeup when she was dead?
Yes.
They made her look like this kind of like Elizabethan, like waxed like on her head or something because all her hair had burned off.
Right.
But she's like super pale, but just she looked horrible but beautiful all at the same time.
Yeah.
It was
I mean,
amazing.
she is just beautiful. Like the actress,
Oh, yeah.
like she
Oh,
is,
yeah.
is just gorgeous. They,
No, she is. She
She's
is.
that classic beauty.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, 100%. But okay, yeah, let's talk about this final scene then.
Final
Okay.
scene.
So Trevor becomes a real person with emotions at the end, and
Yeah.
he's like, "Oh man, I don't know.
Crying in the
mourning her.
bathroom.
This is sad. Let's think about the good times."
I think he was just being a typical douchey dude and was like, "Oh, the Stacy girl, she's not as great as I thought she was going to be. So now I miss
Yes.
my wife who like had genuine personality."
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes.
Because we
Like,
get
I don't
Stacy
think
who's like making food.
Yeah,
the
she's like,
kitchen.
and she's trying to, and
She's
in her
trying.
defense, like I've been there too, like the young, impressionable person.
I've been there too. Yeah.
But, like,
Oh, with the old widow. And
haven't we? I don't know.
I haven't.
Like personally, no, but
But no, like where you're young and like there's maybe an older person in your life or someone you look up to where she doesn't realize that it's this, he's just totally using her.
oh
no,
yeah,
I've never
Like
been.
she's in love with him. Like she really is.
it's relatable, Brianna. People
I'm
have
sorry.
been there.
Right. It is relatable. This is a very relatable scene to Laura.
Yeah, okay.
We're going to be playing Never Have I Ever.
Oh my
Oh
god.
God, I always will lose.
Never have I ever.
I will always lose that game or win. I don't know what to say.
Yeah.
It depends on how you look at it.
All right. Sorry, I digressed us again.
No, you're
We
good.
have digressed
yeah.
a lot.
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay. So anyway, Trevor feels real emotions.
Yeah,
and
he's
he
crying in the bathroom.
decides to say, I'm going to say Helen's name in the mirror. And so he says her name, and we get Helen in this. Yeah, she looks like a goddess.
She does look like a goddess.
Yeah.
Love
just
her aesthetic.
glowing, shows up. We love her. We're rooting for her. She murders Trevor, and it's
Yes.
fantastic. And we're all
just
happy
the
to see
way
that.
she murders him is so good.
Yes.
So
Just
good.
gets him.
Mm-hmm.
Boom. Done.
That's it.
And then poor
That's it.
Stacy.
Oh, poor Stacy.
Poor Stacy
Does she-
holding the knife that she had been cooking with, goes
So
and
she
finds Trevor.
now knows. Oh, and we get a scream because Stacy's
Yes.
scream
There we get the
at the end of
scream.
the movie is like
Mhm.
phenomenal. She has a
Yeah.
good movie scream.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's it. In scene. Done.
That's it.
Thus is Candyman.
Oh man.
Okay, should we go into psych maybe now, and then we can
Okay.
talk about just any scenes we.
Any other scenes? Yeah. So I know we've already talked about hallucinations and delusions in prior episodes.
Right.
But let's just kind of let's talk about those a little bit. So there is a difference between hallucinations and delusions.
Okay.
So a hallucination, that is an experience where you perceive something that is not actually there. So those can be auditory, physical, visual. So it's like there is possibly that Helen was having hallucinations of
Right.
Candyman, especially when she's like on the stretcher.
Yeah.
And that would be an indicator of psychosis. So basically where your reality is not what others perceive as reality.
Okay.
Versus a delusion that's more of like a false belief or judgment about your reality. So like I'm trying to think of like delusions of grandeur would be like, I think I'm God, or I think I'm this amazing person, where it's like, it's not like you're seeing something that other people don't see. It's like you believe your reality is kind of different than other people's.
Would it even be fair to say that believing in Candyman is a delusion, but then seeing Candyman is a hallucination?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yep.
Okay. Yeah. That makes sense.
Mm-hmm. So both can be indicators of psychosis, which they treated. So in the movie, they treated her with Thorazine, and I'm terrible at pronouncing, especially with an illness, pronouncing medical terms, but I'm going to give it a shot. Right. Thorazine is just the brand name for chlorpromazine.
Hey, that's pretty good.
Chlorpromazine.
That sounds like a real word.
Which is an antipsychotic. Now to be just like heavily dosed up on that for a month straight,
wild ride.
Yeah,
not ideal.
But it's used to treat schizophrenia. In the past, it's also been used to treat manic stages of bipolar, but it also is currently still used for things like nausea and vomiting.
Okay.
If you're having like anxiety before surgery, chronic hiccups, just treat it with an antipsychotic.
Interesting.
Also, according to we forgot to give our disclosure. So spooky sippers. I'm not a real doctor, but it's okay because these aren't real people. So take everything I say with a grain of salt.
Yes.
And there we go. So according to the internet, this antipsychotic Thorazine can also be used for acute intermittent porphyria, which is basically problems with like your hemoglobin and red blood cells. So just for like medical stuff.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Or symptoms of tetanus.
Huh.
Which I had to just go get a tetanus shot because my husband and I decided to rip up the carpet in our spare room. And I impaled myself with a rusty staple. And then I was trying to get out a nail and I was pulling so hard that then the hammer like swung back at me and I still have like the little scar of like the edge end of the hammer like went into my arm.
Oh.
And so sippers, here's another PSA for you. You need your tetanus shot every 10 years.
Yeah.
But here's the weird thing. You need it after 5 years if you're exposed or in a situation where you would possibly get tetanus.
Oh.
So does it really then last 10 years?
Interesting. 10 years unless you're exposed.
Again, we're not doctors.
We're not doctors. But I had my last tetanus shot 6 years ago, but because that was 6 years ago, I had to get it again.
Oh. Well, you know what, guys, go check your tetanus vaccine.
Everyone, don't get tetanus.
5 to 10 years.
So chlorpromazine is used to regulate your mood, relax you, and it can decrease hallucinations.
Huh.
Mm-hmm. So if the doctors are thinking that she's in there like hallucinating this man that they don't see in the room,
that was what was happening.
I mean, yeah.
Now giving that to her for then a month before then questioning her on a criminal case, I don't think is advisable.
About right.
Well, you just chill for a month, just drug you up, and then, we'll kind of figure it out from there.
You're fine.
He's pretty reasonable. It was the 90s.
Right, it's fine.
Wild times.
It was different back then.
It was. So then I also feel like, the whole movie was about urban legends or oral folklore. So when I was in undergrad, my main focus or interest was on social psychology. So psychology in general, yes, of course. But I also minored in sociology because I just feel like the social aspect of psychology is like the most fascinating.
Yeah.
So urban legends is, you can kind of take it from a social psychology perspective. It's a form of communication. So it's a way to communicate like social norms and mores, which are basically just social norms that are generally accepted in various cultures. Mm-hmm. That's what like a more is. I found this article from Psychology Today that talked about there's different types of urban legends, which I feel like these are kind of like obvious, but they talked about there's 3 different types of urban legends. One is the social type, one is the survival type, and one is the combined type.
Okay.
So the social type contains social information.
Right.
Okay.
Survival type would contain survival information.
Fair.
All right.
And then the combined type contains both. And I was like, wow, Psychology Today.
All right. Good explanation.
But I do feel like we got that those themes even in the few urban legends that we did hear about. Like, they're ways of warning you, they're ways of like trying to like keep you in line. So for example, I'm trying to think of some of the ones that we've talked about already.
There's one that they talk about in the movie that I wrote down because I was like, wait, is this a real thing? At the very beginning, when they go into the class, they're talking about the baby alligator craze.
Yes. I remember that.
Yeah, no, so I had to go look this up. I hadn't heard of it. Maybe that's just because
I don't
live in a place that ever had alligators. So I don't know why I would have heard of it. But
we didn't either, but I still heard of it.
But yeah, for anyone who hasn't heard of it, like me, people thought that people were getting gators, like baby alligators, which was a real thing. In Florida, vendors would actually sell baby alligators as souvenirs that people could buy. But then people were saying that the alligators would like grow or be too much. And so people would flush them down the toilet or throw them down the sewer. And these alligators were like eating rats to survive and growing giant. So you were getting these sewer alligators.
It's like the origination story of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Yes.
Oh, yes. It is.
It's just that, but instead of fighting crime, you get a scary gator.
Right. But yeah,
But
so
anyway,
like,
yes.
So these urban legends at some point were maybe designed to either, communicate what you should do socially in a situation, or like things you should be afraid of, like, gators in your toilet,
Gators in the sewer.
Right.
Yeah.
But then they get morphed, and so then that led me to kind of take it from a perspective of the game of telephone.
Oh yeah.
So like the game of telephone is basically where your version of memories or your version of stories morph as it goes from person to person. We've all played that game of telephone.
Right.
But there's a reason why that all changes. Memories change, and then just the message changes from one person to the other, because we all come at things with our own bias, with our own, like, what we choose to focus on in the story will change. And so that's going to morph like how we retell the story. And then so one person retells it, slightly different. Like, I don't know, they're more exposed to, I don't know, someone says the word think, but they're more exposed to I'm looking at a highlighter that's pink, so I say pink, and then it like that changes and changes and changes.
Yeah.
So there was an article in the Journal of Experimental Social Psychology where it did this study of people who heard about conflicts between 2 groups of people. And one group heard about conflicts between people that were like their friends, and these are all fictional conflicts, fictional friends. They're friends and people who were like outsiders. And then another group heard the same conflict, but both people involved in the conflict were outsiders, or both people were friends, or both people are strangers. And you remember the stories completely differently if you have friends, even though they're fictional, friends involved in the story, or both groups in the stories are outsiders.
Fascinating.
Oh. And it's the same exact story, but the memories were statistically different.
Yeah.
So you go into it with your own perception, and so that creates a bias, and that creates a different memory. And the other thing that's involved in urban legends is when you're remembering things, there's 2 things that you're going to remember. You're going to remember the information. So do you have accuracy with like your memory of the information, the facts that happened, but also you're going to remember like the affect of what happened.
Yeah.
And this one study I was reading showed that something that does actually improve memory, and that's why this is a common thing in urban legends, is the element of surprise.
Wow.
So the facts might change, but the thing that causes the surprise, that part of the story, like, bam, this happened. Okay, maybe
surprise
like
gator in the sewer.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe the things like maybe it wasn't a gator, maybe it was a snake, or maybe it wasn't a sewer, maybe it was a sink or whatever. Those elements might change, but that surprise element, that stays true. Like that holds on.
Huh.
So it's a little bit more sociology than psychology we went tonight.
No, I love that though.
Yeah. Well, and it's perfect for this movie.
Yes,
you know? Yeah.
it is.
No, that was great.
No, that was
I learned something.
And then I have 2 definitions, and that's it.
Love it.
okay.
Just because we talked about them, hypnosis.
Oh, yes.
So hypnosis is it's a pretty controversial thing. Whether it works, whether it should be used, how it works, and maybe we'll do some other movie where I'll do a deep dive because I just did very, very shallow. Hypnosis is it's a mental state of highly focused concentration where you're more highly suggestible. So like raise your arm. And so you're just so relaxed that you're just going to do it. Almost kind of like you're being high or something like that.
Yeah.
And then you also have a diminished awareness of what's happening in the periphery. So you won't notice these other things that are happening around you because you're so relaxed and suggestible that you could maybe, if someone suggests to you that when I say chicken, you're going to balk like a chicken, you might do that because you're not really realizing that's not reality.
Interesting. Have you guys ever been hypnotized?
No, but I really want to
I
be.
haven't either.
No, like I really, really, really want to be.
You always see it at like the fair, you know? I don't know. That's the only place I've ever experienced it. It's like the state fair where they ask for volunteers.
I will do it. So if we have any listeners that are hypnotists, hit me up. I'm ready.
Yes.
I saw it. We had a hypnotist come to my college. It was like for freshman orientation or something. There was a hypnotist there. And I don't know that I could be hypnotized. I think I'm too skeptical and too in my head. Like I don't know that it would work with me. I want it to work. I think it'd be fun. I mean, I wouldn't remember it, but like, I don't know that
that's a thing, right? Like it doesn't work for everyone.
No, it doesn't. Some people are more prone to it than others. So interesting. And then they also talk about she blacks out in the movie.
Yeah.
And blackouts are a very real thing, not just if you've drank too much, if you've been sipping too hard. As we all probably know, that's a real thing.
Yes.
But it also can just be a thing that happens just psychologically. It's just a temporary condition that affects your memory. And you'll lose time. It can happen during heightened stress, heightened trauma. And it's just kind of a survival mechanism of like, I can't remember this. It's too much for my brain to process. And sometimes you can recover blackouts in hypnosis. Sometimes not. Sometimes it's just like your brain is like, nope, I can't go
Gone.
there anymore.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Ooh, good psychoanalysis.
Yeah, this was a good psych deep dive. Yeah, for this movie.
Yeah.
So Laura, if you have a This Time in History,
I do.
I'm very interested.
Okay.
Because I love the early 90s.
Have we done 92? Was that any of our other movies?
I don't think so. Yeah.
Okay.
I did a few more for This Time in History too. So we can
good.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, perfect.
Yes.
So I have some top movies for us.
Yes.
Aladdin.
Yes.
The Bodyguard, one of my favorite movies of all time.
Classic.
If any of our spooky sippers are watching Yellowstone, Yvette or Brianna, are you watching Yellowstone?
Oh, I haven't. No, I've heard of it. I've heard it's good. I haven't started watching it.
It's not spooky. The first few episodes I hated, but now I love it, and it's mostly just because of Kevin Costner and of my love for him that stemmed from The Bodyguard.
Nice.
So anyway, that's what I thought. Batman Returns was a big movie. Also A Few Good Men.
Nice.
Yeah. So those are the movies that were of note to me. For music, some big ones would be Nirvana's Nevermind. So like that's their big album.
Yep.
And that's the one with the naked baby on the cover where like
yes.
little penis.
Yep.
Which then I had to go down this rabbit hole because so the baby is Spencer Eldon and he later sued Nirvana
Multiple times.
Yeah, I feel like I heard about this
many a times.
Yeah, because he sued them for basically like using his body without his consent, but then it was dismissed because I mean his parents must have been like, yeah, use my baby. Like
yeah.
So, sorry. Go to therapy.
But he tried many times.
Yeah.
It's been a long time. Let's move on.
Let's move on. No one cares. Criss Cross was big.
Oh my God.
Loved Criss Cross. They're backwards. Oh God, it was so good. Also, and I wrote this on purpose for our younger sippers. Miley's dad, Billy Ray Cyrus. He had a big hit. I mean, he was huge back in the day. But Achy Breaky Heart was big.
Yes.
Which is the only song of his I know.
Same.
So. For mobile phones, 2G came out.
Oh,
honestly, that's earlier than I thought. I thought it was later.
Yeah,
right?
me too.
That's pretty good.
There was a lot of controversy on what was going to be the standard format for images on the internet, and it was decided that JPEG won. So
interesting.
It was in 92 that everyone, because before that no one could handle or figure out what was going to be the standard. JPEG was decided.
Nice.
Fashion, Brianna.
Fashion.
Big hair and big hoops.
Oh, the hoop earring.
Bigger the hoop, the bigger the horror.
So that was big.
Remember that life lesson as a child.
Who taught you that life lesson, Brianna?
Did.
Thank you.
Did.
Thank you.
Laura has taught me a lot of life lessons.
I really have. I'm very wise.
One of them. Should be wearing my big hoops tonight.
Oh my gosh, if only we'd
known.
known. If only we'd known.
So the internet was kind of just getting up and running. So that's kind of where people were at. It was just getting started. Gerald's Game was a big book.
Oh,
so Gerald's Game is a movie that I think we all have seen, right?
Yeah.
Or it was like a Netflix.
Yeah, it's on Netflix.
Something. Which actually I thought they did a very good job of that.
It was good.
It was also kind of a spooky movie.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
But yeah, that was the book that was big that year. That's when the Cosby Show ended, which has fallen from grace. But back in the day was a good show. It was a good show back in the day. Stupid Cosby ruined it.
Yeah.
Bill Clinton won the election.
Go Bill.
The Cold War ended.
Yay.
Yay.
I mean, I remember hearing about that as a kid, and then it was over. So, yeah. I mean, I'm older than you both. So, also, MTV's The Real World had its first season.
Oh, nice.
So, those are the only this time in history facts that I came up with. Did I miss any?
Oh, okay. Here, I had a couple more just fun ones. AT&T launched the Video Phone 2500, which we might need to post a photo because it's the funniest looking thing. It's like this home phone with like a 3-inch screen. You can count the pixels that you can see on it, and it was $1,500 in 1992 to use to video chat. And it's so funny. But so they attempted to launch the video phone in the 90s.
So, you guys, when you say video phone, that makes me think of it's actually not even been that long, but so I used to work for a college for deaf and hard of hearing students, and video phone was like a big deal because this was before I'm aging myself. This was like not even like everyone had like video cell phones all the time.
Yeah.
Like for all of that, but like It was a huge deal being able to have video phones versus like the TTY machines where you're like typing. But yeah, they were expensive.
Yeah.
They were expensive and they were hard to get. They were a big deal.
Yeah, that would be the equivalent of like $3,200 in today's money for a video phone.
For a video phone that was really not that great of quality.
No. So in case what did we do before Zoom? Video phone, 2,500. I like that they added the 2,500 at the end. They're like, this is the future. Slap a few hundreds on there.
That's amazing.
Amazing.
Let's see. We had Cartoon Network was established.
Okay.
Prince Charles and Princess Diana separated.
Oh, scandal.
Unfortunately. Or fortunately, really. And most importantly, in America, the Mall of America opened its doors. The biggest attraction in the Midwest.
America.
I've been there multiple times.
I haven't. How is it?
There's a roller coaster inside the mall. It's pretty weird.
Yeah.
Big.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well,
actually,
and it's only grown since then.
Yeah.
They've expanded it by like acres since opening.
It's too big. It's too much.
Yeah.
No one needs that much mall anymore.
It's true.
The Cabrini Green housing project was demolished, and the last building was officially torn down in 2001. So that is gone.
Okay.
Good. Let's see, what else do we have? The director, Bernard Rose, was worried about depicting racial stereotypes and stuff in the movie. So he did meet with the NAACP to talk about the movie and tried to kind of figure out a better way to go about it.
Awesome.
We're not experts in this. There's a lot of very educated people that have talked about how race is explored in this movie.
Yeah.
And people should go look them up.
Yes.
They do a much better job.
Don't rely on us for
that
this.
That was clearly such a theme, though. And that's kind of one of the things that when I was looking up urban legends, like that's a huge deal.
Oh, yeah.
And you could tell that that's where they were going at, was that it's a problem. It's a problem how it's viewed. It's a problem how it's, people are treated.
Oh, yeah. And people have done such deep analysis in the movie. I've watched some of them. They're worth checking out.
Yeah, so go check
we're not those people though. Yeah. And we're not gonna pretend to be.
No.
The role of Helen was originally going to be played by the director's wife. So she was originally going to play Helen, and the actress Virginia was going to play Bernadette.
I see.
But while they were making the movie, they decided that the role of Bernadette should go to a Black actress just because of the way that they were making the movie. So they cast the new actress for that. And then, let me get her name. The director's wife, Alexandra Pig, ended up getting pregnant and couldn't do the movie. So they gave the role to Virginia because she was already, kind of cast.
Yeah, she does well with it.
She does a good job.
The producer did say that if Virginia hadn't been able to do it, the role would have very likely gone to then unknown actress Sandra Bullock.
Oh my gosh.
My hero.
Wow.
I love her.
So wild.
That is wild.
And then for Candyman, they were originally thinking Eddie Murphy.
Oh, I couldn't see that.
I can't see that either.
I can't see that.
I can't see it. And then I saw
he doesn't normally do those roles.
Right.
Yeah. And Tony Todd's voice.
Yeah.
There's something about the voice that does
so
the role
good.
in.
Absolutely.
So I saw two things. One, they just couldn't afford Eddie Murphy. And two, they wanted someone who was taller. And Tony Todd is very tall.
Very tall.
Yeah.
Very tall. So
tall with that deep voice. It's just a little bit more oppressive.
Yeah. Yes. Oh, I'm so happy that they did not.
Yeah, there's something
for that.
Yeah, there's just this large presence.
Yeah.
Agreed.
To make the hook, the set dressers people, they originally reached out to a blacksmith and they went to him, let him know, hey, we kind of want to make this hook. Can you make this for us? The guy said, yeah. So the blacksmith made the hook, and then someone from the movie went to pick it up and they were asking them, what are you going to use it for? And so they gave them a little bit about the movie, and the blacksmith took the hook, put it in a drawer, and he was like, well, I'm a Christian. And I don't agree with that. So
my
he did not
gosh.
sell them the hook. So they had to like last minute kind of just pound a bunch of metal in order to get it in the shape of a hook to try to get something to work for the movie.
Wow.
Huh.
And apparently he had done a really good job too. They were like, it was like beautifully done. Like they were so excited about it.
That sucks.
They didn't get to use
It's
it.
better for the story that it's a little bit more like last minute and unperfect. And,
not crafted and perfect.
Yeah, kind of like jaggedy.
And it looked good in the movie.
Oh, it did.
I don't think they missed out. I think it looks great.
Yeah.
The story was based, we talked about like the true story behind the mirror, but the story for the movie was based on a short story called The Forbidden by Clive Barker. Originally, the movie was set in Liverpool, and it had themes of kind of the British social class in the story. So when the director decided to move it to the US, he decided to instead talk about also social class, but race in the movie. So he kind of switched it up quite a bit. I wasn't able to find and read the original story, but I do think they're quite a bit different. Okay. A lot of people argue the movie's better, which is hard to do. I have found very few movies that people say are better than the original work.
Yeah.
Let's see. Their budget was somewhere between $6 and $9 million, somewhere around there. I couldn't find the exact number. Opening weekend, they made just over $5 million, and then they ended up grossing $25 million. So they did a great job with the budget. Yeah, it received like pretty okay reviews. For a horror movie, you're never going to do great. Right. Like they did pretty good. They had pretty good reviews coming out of it. And then the last one is, I forget his name, the actor that played Jake. Since he was so young, he had his aunt on set pretty much the whole time. And, for obvious reasons, she wanted to make sure he was safe, kind of stick with him. And so for that very, very last scene in the movie where they're doing the funeral, she couldn't really find a way to keep an eye on him because they were walking, across the cemetery. So they ended up putting her in the movie. So she's the person standing behind him. So they put her in wardrobe, let her be in the film, and she's the person that's walking behind him for the funeral.
Oh, that's fun.
Kind of fun. How fun.
Yeah.
I love that.
Okay. And that's all the fun facts.
Oh my gosh. What a movie. Yeah. This was definitely not what I remembered, but that's because I didn't remember a lot.
Yeah. I think as a kid, I grasped less than 50%.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, a lot of it goes over your head.
Less than 5%. Yeah. Like
way
gone.
over. I'm so happy we rewatched it though. This was really good
too.
This was a good call.
Yeah. Okay. So here on Spooky Sips, we don't give stars, we give sips. So ladies, out of 5 sips, what are you giving this movie?
Okay, I think for me, this one's like a 2.9, which is like maybe like a little lower than it, but only because we haven't talked about it as much, but the movie starts kind of slow. Like it's a slow burn of a movie, which I don't always love. There are so many amazing things about it, and people should definitely watch it if you haven't watched it. But I think for me, it was like a 2.9.
I think I have to give it the exact same, because for me to give a 3, like my 3 is pretty solid, and it's just a little bit below that.
Like just barely.
Just a titch below that. So yes, giving it a 2.9.
Okay.
So it's funny because I love this discussion, and I love the movie after we like deep dive into it. But I've tried not to let that cloud my initial score of like if I were just to go watch it.
Right.
Yes.
Because I think that I can talk myself into loving it after the fact, just because this has been a good discussion, right?
Yeah.
But I'm gonna go with my initial gut one, even though I'm the one that recommended this. It stuck with me as a kid. Watching it back, I'm very, very similar to you guys, but just a little bit less. I was going to give it a 2.75, where it's not bad. I think you should watch it, but is it one that I'm like, ooh, I want to go watch that movie? No.
Yeah.
I think they did a good job. There were so many things they did creatively that I really appreciate. So for those elements, I would give it like a 3.5, but as a whole movie, I would go down to a 2.75.
Yeah. I think think we're all in the same ballpark for this one.
Same ballpark.
Yeah,
I think so.
Yep.
I think so.
There is something to that, though. This movie is so fun to talk about after.
It is.
There was something about it where you can talk about. I feel like there's so much we haven't talked about yet.
Oh my gosh! Like I feel like we could deep dive into so many different areas.
So
of
much.
this movie.
We could have a mini series on it.
You really could. There's so much to dive into, which is crazy for not a long movie. I think it's 99 minutes.
It is 99 minutes.
Like an hour and a half. I don't know how they threw so much in there.
No, I agree.
But yeah,
I know. Okay, so I'm super excited for our next choice. It is my pick because it is one of my favorite movies ever. It is a Guillermo del Toro movie, Crimson Peak. If you have not seen it yet, oh, am I so excited for you to go watch it, because it's just a beautifully creepy movie. So go enjoy, get sipping, and go watch Crimson Peak. And we'll see you next time on Spooky Sips.
Cheers.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to Spooky Sips. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, please share it with others, subscribe, and leave a rating or review wherever you're listening. To stay up to date on all the spooky things we're up to, don't forget to follow us on Facebook and Instagram at spookysips_podcast. Thanks again for listening. See you in 2 weeks for a new episode.